So the same way we made our other paper tubes, we're going to curve the edge and then we're going to roll our paper together. And I'm going to cut my tape up ahead of time so that it's all ready when I'm done with my roll. Make sure you tape the edges and then you tape the middle and pull your tape super tight. Now I'm going to use scissors for this next part. Okay, and I'm also going to use some cotton. All right, so I'm going to take one of my edges and I'm going to cut some little triangular shaped hatches in. That's because I need something to be able to rest the rubber band in and aim a little bit better. I want this arrow to fit snugly on the rubber band. I don't want to try and just balance a flat edge on the rubber band because real arrows, they have these little hatches. So we're going to make our arrows have these hatches. Okay, there's my first one. It's like a little triangle that I cut out. Now I'm going to cut out another triangle on the exact same side. I don't want them next to each other. I want them to be on opposite sides, and I'll show you why in a second. So I'm going to cut that out. And I find it really hard to cut because I've rolled my paper super tight. So usually I have to bend the triangle up like that, and then I have to cut the edge off. Okay, now there's one little triangle edge, and it's not a perfect triangle, and there's another little triangle edge, and watch how it's going to fit on my rubber band, on my little drawstring, on my bow. See that? That's what the little hatches are for. That makes it fit right onto the rubber band very nicely. We want our arrow to fly straight and true, so we're going to make these little fins. And I like to make mine triangle shaped because it's easy. And I'm just reusing the paper my chopsticks came in. You can use any paper you want, cardboard you have around the house. And you don't have to make them in triangle shapes like I did. You can make different shapes if you want. You can try squares. You can try kind of like a rounded, like ellipses or an oval, half oval. Experiment. These are like stabilizers. They're going to help stabilize your arrow as it flies through the air. Because again, as it's moving around, all of those air molecules, right, they can push up, they can push down, they can push side to side, and you're increasing your surface area in a strategic way that's going to help your arrow to fly. Now, if you have trouble making these little fins, don't worry about it. Try making an arrow without them, or maybe you might make one arrow that doesn't have any fins, then you might make several arrows that have different shapes of fins and different sizes, and then you could try launching them from the exact same spot and seeing which ones flew longer. That would be a really fun experiment. And the first thing I do is I put a piece of tape on before I even put the fin on. So I'm going to put tape on just one side. Now I'm going to figure out where I want it to go, but this is really important, and we do this at school. Put your arrow, mount it into your bow beforehand. You want to be able to put your fins on in a way where they're not going to hit the rubber band, they're not going to hit the triangle part of your bow. So the safest way to make sure that's not going to happen is to put it onto your crossbow. So there it is, and it's okay if it's a little wiggly right now. So I'm going to put these two side fins on right away. Put the tape on first before you put it onto your arrow. And I'm going to try and make my fins nice and even, but I'm also going to make sure that they're not touching the rubber band. So now those fins, I've only got tape on one side, so I'm going to come in with some second tape, and I'm going to tape the other side because I don't want them to be wiggly. Or I want to try to make them as least wiggly as I can possibly get. You practice. So now I've got two fins. Maybe that's all you want. Maybe you just want to try two fins. Now, in my experience, I found that's pretty good. But having a third fin up on the top, so those two are like horizontal stabilizers, but I need a vertical stabilizer too. Just like the tail on an airplane has horizontal and vertical stabilizers, I want a vertical stabilizer. So now I've noticed that I could cut a little bit better hatching in mine, and I'm not going to be too worried even if my fins aren't perfect, even if my crossbow isn't perfect, even if my arrow's not perfect. Don't worry about it. This is just a prototype. It's for fun. If you really like this, you can make a whole bunch of them, and each time you can try to make it just a little bit better and a little bit better. Or maybe you don't want to make a whole bunch. Maybe you just want to make one and have fun with it. That's okay. So now I'm going to put my horizontal stabilizer on. And I'm going to put that on the top. I'm not going to put it on the bottom, because if I put it on the bottom, it would hit the crossbow. So I'm only going to put that on the top there. So now this is almost ready to launch. Almost. But for a couple reasons, it's really important that you put something soft into the top of your arrow. So the top of our arrow right now is an open tube, and air can flow right through it. We don't want air flowing through our arrow. We want to block that airflow. So we're going to block the airflow with a little bit of cotton because it's soft. So our cotton, we want it to stop the flow of air through our tube, but we also want it to be nice and helpful. Now, if you don't have cotton, you might use a little bit of paper towel or maybe a little bit of tissue. You might be able to find something else like some yarn around your house or a little bit of scrap fabric you don't need. And in fact, before you try testing this and shooting it inside your home, ask your grown-ups where it would be okay. Because sometimes, right, they might say you can try this here, but don't try it in this other room. And you should ask permission first. So now I'm going to mount my arrow onto my rubber band, just like that. The little hatches are holding it in. And I'm going to pull my fingers nice and far apart. And I'm going to pull back on the rubber band. So I've got my fingers really far apart. And I'm going to pull down. And then I'm going to launch, just like that. Okay, now remember, you want to pull your fingers far apart. Draw down your rubber band. And then you want to mount your arrow on after you've drawn your rubber band down. Now it takes a lot of practice, because sometimes, the first couple times you try and shoot, you'll think, oh no, this isn't working. But part of it is technique, and you have to practice your technique. I'm going to hold my crossbow from underneath, and then I'm going to let it go. If you are having trouble shooting it at first and it's getting caught, don't worry about it. Just practice. You'll get it eventually. Remember to ask your grown-ups before you try any of this at home. And definitely do not aim your arrows at another person or a pet, or even just things that your grown-ups would not want you to aim it at, like their nice, valuable things or their fragile things. Ask permission and have fun. All right, bye-bye.